All right, everybody. Hello. Thank you all for joining us today for one of our first panel sessions that we're going to be having. To introduce myself, hi, I'm Gabriel Rucker. I am the CEO and co founder of Founding Titans. I have here my co founder, Brandy. If you want to introduce yourself really quick.
Hi, y'all. I'm Brandy. I'm also a co-founder and the COO. Just want to say thank y'all so much for showing up, and we really look forward to this session. We got some great people here, and we're going to go nice and deep and all the things. Please make sure you throw your questions in the chat. I'll be there absorbing it all. So, yeah, appreciate y'all again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for some context, really quick on Founding Titans. So, we are a community focused relationship optimization platform. We're building our platform to be able to help communities and entrepreneurs to be able to 10x their network size as well as their engagement. And so, I don't know why my hat's being weird. It's hilarious. But either way, outside of that, we're essentially doing these sessions every week on Tuesday and Thursday to be able to help out entrepreneurs, community builders, researchers, advisors, investors, mentors. There's really people within a lot of these, larger tech and even a lot of non-technical ecosystems. And so today, our session is part of our Tales of the Pantheon series, which is essentially a fireside chat style series where we're bringing up different topics or stories related to some of the guests we have. Today, we're talking about grants, and so I want to bring up our first panelist here. So Mollie, I'm going to bring you in really quick.
Hi, everyone. Would you like me to introduce myself now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mollie Jahner, CEO of Spring and Forge. We're a go-to-market accelerator. So essentially helping hard tech, defense tech, dual-use tech companies, and beyond, med tech as well, kind of go to market and then scale, connect to funding, grants, government contracts. We have a whole host of retired general officers and government officials that we work with to kind of help you scale. We've won over 90 million in funding over the last few years and really enjoy helping those companies sell largely into the government and the military industrial complex writ large. So that was my 30-second. I know you keep it short.
Yeah, and if you want to provide any more context for everything, I mean, you can as well.
Yeah, well, over the course of the conversation, I'm sure it'll come out.
Perfect. And then the next person that we've got up is Jacob.
Hey, Gabriel. Thanks for having me. Jacob Schoenberg, founder and CEO of Grantx. We are building the one-stop shop platform for being able to answer the question of what grant funding is out there for me and what grants should I really apply to. And we provide all of the project management solutions required to really kind of get from 0 to 1. And we've actually built out a proprietary neurosymbolic system in order to accomplish this task more effectively, accurately, and quickly than any other technology that's currently available.
Perfect. No, thank you so much. And so we're going to get into it instead of just wasting time with a lot of back and forth. I really want to get some of the nitty gritty details from our panelists here. So Brandy's going to be with us the entire time. She's going to be inside of the chat to essentially gather you guys' questions, kind of interact with you guys. So she's going to be here, and then we're going to bring her back in for some of the Q&A portions as well. And so essentially the formatting for this, we've already gone through all the pleasantries for us. And then over the next 40 minutes, we're going to be diving deep into some pre-submitted questions from some of our users, as well as just some questions that we've kind of generated around the topic of grants in today's society within the United States. And then after that, we're going to have about 15 minutes for Q&A. So just giving everybody the context there. But I will see you in a bit, Brandy. Let me go ahead and put you over on the side here. And then thank you so much for monitoring the chat for us. And so for the next portion here, sorry, I'm getting 45 notifications on my screen as I'm doing this. So I'm going to shut those off too. But really to start this off, so first question is, what trends are you seeing in the current grant landscape? And, what's changed in 2025? And let's pass it over to, I think, Mollie first for this one.
Okay, sure. So we're in a really specific space thinking about, the military and hard tech and what that looks like. I think it's a really exciting time for founders who are building something, especially something really tangible. So thinking about infrastructure, security, thinking about those things, with the new administration, there's always a lot of questions that come up with that. And like, okay, what can I get funding for now? What are we, what is the government focused on? What projects? And I think there's three things that I see that are still being funded and have even more emphasis. And I would say it's security. So security in all fronts. What does it look like from a cybersecurity perspective? What does it look like from a physical security perspective? I would say infrastructure. So not just at a federal level, but also at a state and local level. How are we shoring up, for lack of a better word, our infrastructure, right? So trains, planes, automobiles, how we interact with those systems, what does that look like? And then I would say the third is actually ag tech, which I know might be out of left field for some folks, but I'm seeing a lot of funding around ag tech, and the USDA is actually pumping a ton of dollars into certain projects. And so I would say those three things off the top.
No.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jacob, so I know you were building a specific platform around grants, and I know you're doing a lot of like aggregating of data and being able to display these things. So you've kind of got I believe a unique perspective that I think a lot of people might not be able to see in some of these grant conversations. So if you want to share some of your insights on kind of how you see the landscape has changed over this year.
Yeah, and I would absolutely back up what Mollie said. Generally, the theme of security is very real, a clear priority, and the funding is there to back it up. I have had a lot of conversations with people who were building, and there is that preference for kind of hard tech, tangible solutions. But people who are building, hard tech startups and realizing that it is opportune for them to either transition or explore the idea of dual use and potential applications in defense. Reality of the funding landscape, there's a lot of money out there. I would also say just general, very high level trend is there is still absolutely the priority of R&D and innovation. If you are building something new, there is money out there for you. I did not mean to make that rhyme.
I was going to say that rhymes. That was well.
Yeah, that's something that's still very real in the U.S. is trying to kind of invent new, innovative, impactful solutions. Unfortunately, there has definitely been a shift away from initiatives more focused on making an impact in the world of DEI. This is, again, a reality of recent policy changes. But if the impact that you're focused on is developing new tech, like really reaching deep and going into a world of actually inventing new things rather than kind of patching together existing technologies. There may be space if you're patching together, existing technologies in a novel manner or in a new space. There is some opportunity out there, but generally speaking, go out and solve a problem, right? And do so in a new and ideally proprietary way. And you should be good.
No, I love that. And also, I saw some people might be having some issues with viewing the stream as well. So it's also going to be recorded on LinkedIn. And then after this, the stream will also be available for everybody after it's recorded. So hopefully the recording actually goes through. But I see people in the comments saying that it's working fine for them. So yeah. But for the next question here that we've got for you guys. So grants are becoming a lot more competitive from what we've seen, especially with some of the new shakeups and everything. So, are they really becoming new competitive, or is that just something that we're, kind of making up in our heads? And are there really new opportunities that are opening up that you guys are excited about? And I'll let either one of you guys take this one or go first for that.
Mollie, you mind if I jump in?
Nope, go ahead, please.
Awesome. So from our POV, grants are definitely becoming more competitive. If you're speaking to the kind of programs that have typically gotten more attention, the area where we see a lot of opportunity is private foundation funding. This is non-federal funding coming from essentially like private foundations, NGOs, right? These are grants that are typically harder to find. but oftentimes significantly less competitive. I've had a lot of funders reach out to me and say, hey, example, we have $5 million sitting that we are charged to spend to further specific cause, right? And we have no applicants coming to us. We can't disperse this $5 million because nobody knows about us. And so the area of private foundations is something that is still very much kind of ripe for the picking. And we've also seen a lot of shift in funding where private foundations are picking up the slack a little bit of federal programs that have been frozen or defunded. This is an area that we directly address on our platform, providing much more visibility and accessibility to this private foundation funding. But I think that's really kind of the shelter from the storm.
Yeah, well said. The only thing I would add to that, because I agree, I think the foundation money is huge, along with the university funding. But I would say is state and local funding. I think when you look at the eligibility requirements, so yes, they're more competitive. How can you get around that? Here's the answer to that. I would say look at the eligibility requirements for a lot of the grants. And if you're a founder that's willing to relocate to another state, or you're willing to do XYZ, that other people aren't, even that little bit of a difference, I mean, that funding is right there for you. And so there's a lot across the states, and there's certain states especially that are pouring a lot of effort and energy into workforce development and bringing new tech and new startups to their states. And so really focusing on that, and that'll help make you more competitive. So that's a thought.
No, perfect. And thank you both for the context and information around that. And the next thing we're going to jump into is really what the different types of grant funding that's out there or available, and what the difference is between like a grant versus an open contract, and kind of all the details there. So I'll let Mollie jump in again and kind of take this one.
Yes. So thank you for that. We really focus on both grants and contracts, but it's a really important distinction. So the open contracts, more often than not, you're partnering with a larger company. So for those who maybe don't know the terms, it could be called a big, it could be called a prime, and you're the sub. And so think I'll use from my experience, like Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Google. These are all primes that you could partner with on different contracts that they already are running or on, right? Blue Forge Alliance is a really good example of a contract vehicle, which is essentially a nonprofit organization that is housing government money and doling it out to different startups as it makes sense. So they're a $2 billion contract vehicle for the Navy. So that's an example of contract money and how much is there. So that's a really big pot when you think about the money. And that's why I always, yes, grants are great, but try and push startups into, once you've won maybe a few grants or you're farther along, into contracts, because that's where the real dollars are, especially if you are looking to build something tangible and partner and scale into the military industrial complex. But then grants are a little bit smaller, although I love using grants to develop your product. So little chunks here and there, and I would almost treat it like product development and apply for 2 or 3 a quarter. Sounds like Grantx is a great place to kind of look for those things. But, how do I budget in that time to fund that larger idea? So hopefully that answers that question for you.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I didn't know if you had anything to add to that, Jacob. I know she kind of summarized it up pretty well, but if there's any additional details you've got.
Yeah, no, and completely agree. Also, the last point you made, Mollie, on the state and local opportunities, like huge. Talk to startups about this all the time. Like definitely explore state and local opportunities. On actually the state and local opportunities, there's a lot of not necessarily grant programs, but a lot of states have, similar to the federal SBA loan program, there are loan programs that are much more favorable to early stage companies, where you can get much better terms. You don't have to worry about payback period as much. Obviously, you're still taking on debt, so that is something to be very aware of, and make some conscious and strategic decisions there as the leader of your company. And then, from actually the grants perspective, it's good to know that there are a bunch of different types of grants. So everybody thinks about grants as kind of being competitive, and there are competitive grants. There are also formulaic grants. These are less traditional for startups, but this is something where if you can find one out there, maybe you're a more mature company, maybe you're in a specific space, particularly research, where you see formulaic grants pop up, it's checking off boxes and the money's there. That can be a lot easier when the environment has gotten more competitive as a whole.
No, perfect. I appreciate the additional information, especially for the researchers out there. I know our typical audience for Founding Titans is more like entrepreneurs, communities, and everything. But for this one, I actually sent it out to a lot of people that are specifically researchers and really looking to get a lot of this tangible information. So thank you for kind of tying them back into this conversation as well, and kind of giving them some additional, thoughts or resources on how they can, get some of this funding for themselves. And so another question that's, I guess, kind of within the same vein, and then we'll, start, I guess, diving deeper into the individual topics themselves. But, what do you think about the future of grant funding and what that really looks like today?
That's a big one. Go ahead, Jacob.
All right, time for the shameless plug. I've been holding my breath. No. I'll talk about kind of what we're doing to drive towards the future. But first, kind of general take on the future of funding. I think that a lot of the policy changes, or at least I hope that a lot of the policy changes that we're seeing around, particularly federal funding programs, like I mentioned, continue to be kind of counterbalanced by movement in the private foundation space, but then also down the line, hopefully those policies are not kind of permanent for everyone's sake. I also will say that I think the grant funding system as a whole, the way that this money is dispersed, is currently using a system that was established in 1977 with very little changes to it. That's why we exist. Is at Grantx, we are addressing the kind of key bottlenecks that people face in this industry, the kind of key pain points, like I mentioned, answering the question of what's out there for me. A lot of the kind of conversation that we've had so far focuses on understanding what types of grants you should be looking for. Because traditionally the activity of finding grants is using like a keyword search with an incomplete database, looking through newsletters, talking to friends, reading blogs. Our search agent, or what we like to call our recommendation engine on the Grantx platform, actually automates all of this. We build a report based on your organization for you, whatever we can gather publicly, and then there's a quick upload for any proprietary or non-public information. And then we use that to do context-based matchmaking based on the full context of every grant, the funder related to it, their funding preferences and patterns from our database of 672,000 funders. And then we make those matches and only provide you with like the pre-qualified results, meaning that anything that you find on Grantx is something you should seriously consider applying to, so that you don't really have to become an expert grant, or an expert in grants to even have grants be an opportunity. Not to mention, you don't have to spend 2 to 3 weeks looking for them. For us, and really for my vision for this system and marketplace as a whole, is to continue building out these efficiencies and making it so that a nonprofit or a starter that is going out and trying to significantly impact or change the world doesn't have to spend the majority of their time dealing with grants. It's something that they can do quite quickly.
Yeah, and for Alicia in the chat, she wanted to know how many again. So if you were able to hit us with those quick numbers.
Yeah. So we have 672,000 funders in our database. That includes federal funders, private foundations, state and local opportunities, as well as various philanthropic and corporate giving programs.
Okay, awesome. No, that's I know it's extremely difficult for platforms to get all of that data, and especially being able to match people on the back end. I mean, we're doing some of our own recommendation algorithms, and oh yeah, that's where we're trying to work with you guys on that front. So we'd have to do that on the grant side. I'm just having war flashbacks in my mind when I actually was trying to create this myself when we met last year. So no, we're good. But Mollie, I know that you might have some additional information or context around this as well, or even if you wanted to come in from a different perspective on what you think the future of grant funding looks like.
Yes, yeah. I will say, well, that was a great answer, first of all. Second of all, I think that with the age of tech and how slow the government moves, it's going to be really, really interesting to see those two things collide. And startups move fast and the government doesn't. And so I think the future of funding is going to be really interesting as we see tech like Grantx and others try to kind of turn that big boat, you be as the rudder, and see if we can't start getting things more efficient and streamlined. I will say, I think business is still going to be very much relational. I know that the search itself is automated, but I will say that especially on our end, like who's in your network that you know that wrote this grant. Context is everything. Are they super technical? Do they want more of an overview in a grant? Like, I still think reaching out and being people as we like sprint into the tech age. Every day I feel like I wake up and there's something new and different, but still no AI to do my laundry. So someone in the chat needs to focus on that. Something like that, right? But I just still think, I will say that I think funding is going to become increasingly relational, because I think that's going to be the only way to fill that gap between the government and the startups that are moving at light speed. It's just my perspective.
Do you mind if I actually kind of add to that too? Because I completely agree.
By all means.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's people, right? Like you're saying, like, though we're talking about this system that's in place that's outdated, the people in this system, that doesn't go away. Like, the people component will always be needed and will always be kind of, I think, one of the most, if not the most fundamental components of how funding gets distributed, right?
Yeah.
We're just here to try and kind of offload the non-people activities.
Yeah. Which is great. You said 2 to 3 weeks to find a grant, and it really resonated with me. I was like, it's so real. Like, and 17 tabs, and then the notepad, and like, am I even eligible? Right. Like, all of those things. So that was a good point.
Yeah. We do we automate that process, and it takes 15 minutes.
So much of your life back to do laundry.
Yeah. But please, someone in the chat, like, actually invent something that can do the laundry and fold it.
Yes, there you go.
You know how expensive that's going to be? Like, just as a very, very quick side tangent, we had a company. So I'm also associate director for Founder Institute, and we had a company that was trying to build exactly that for a laundry thing. It was going to be like $5,000 just to buy one of them, like, which is why they didn't build it. But yeah, no, it is not a cheap process to build a laundry robot. But back to our regularly scheduled program. I just had to say that because of my ADHD, guys. Sorry. But for going into so like government policy and like kind of the current administration's impact on everything. I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit about some of these things, but I really want to potentially dive a little bit deeper if we can on some of that information, and if we can't too, like, by all means, like, it's fine, but I want to see if we can look at some of these topics. So a lot of government agencies have either been downsized, defunded, just straight out cut, and so what are some that entrepreneurs should be aware of, or just like information that you might have around how to navigate some of those recent cuts?
I mean, I will say at the beginning of the year when they paused GSA, the GSA schedule, everybody held their breath. If you don't know what GSA schedule is, check it out. It's a really great place to be listed so that the government can use you for things. That said, I will say maybe it would be easier for me to tell you what I'm seeing get funding. So companies we've worked with that are actually getting funding, I would say drone tech is really hot right now, especially drone tech layered on with any type of AI or software. That's huge. So how do you make the drones smarter? How do you make them better? I would say any type of, and again, this is from a military perspective, but any type of off-road vehicle, especially around batteries or alternative energy, right? Climate tech. So those types of things, how do we do that? Again, that kind of goes back to infrastructure, like I said earlier, but specific, I would say that protecting our food chain, our sustainability and where our food comes from. So this new administration especially is very guarded against China and Russia, and how do we protect our interests? And so if you're looking at things like that, how do we protect our food supply? How do we protect borders in certain perspective? How do we protect XYZ, right? Like protection as a bucket. If you're building and you can kind of weave that language in some capacity, I think that's a win. And I'm seeing a lot of funding go in those directions. So that might be a better, I know you said you wanted us to be specific to walk away with tangibles. So I'm trying to do that.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. I mean, even if this one's, it's interesting because also things could change daily too. So for this one, we might have to go slightly more service level, but if we can go granular, that's always great. Another thing, which for you specifically, Mollie. So somebody asked around social equity grants and what your feelings are around that, specifically with what's going on. I think they're specifically talking about now that there's been a lot of defunding with DEI and everything, how that might particularly tie into this.
I can give you an exact example, a direct example. So we had a group that is focused on building out kind of community, and it had a very clear DEI focus ahead of this new administration. And you absolutely have to pivot. That language is like an immediate flag. I don't know what they have going on over there, but it'll flag you immediately. And it's like, okay, that's a no-go. So one of the ways we kind of rework that is focus on upskilling, reskilling, workforce development. Those are all still very positive, like funded things. And if you can find a way to use that language as you talk about what you do, don't change what you're doing, because that's important. And the heart of it is crucial. I'm not saying that, to be very clear, but if you can find a way to, I'm also a marketer. That's my whole background. If you can find a way to put a little sparkle on it that redirects the eye, then you might be able to get some funding. So that's what I would say.
No, I love that, especially like add a little sparkle onto it for sure. And then specifically, I guess around the cuts or downsizing. For you, Jacob, are you seeing anything interesting in regards to like you guys kind of fetching this data, or like even with potentially getting some folks that you're working with or trying to work with while you're building out the platform you're building, or really just any other perspectives around this that you might be able to add?
Yeah. I don't know how much perspective this adds, but it may be something that's interesting-ish and good to be aware of. We've actually seen a lot of funders who have frozen programs without publishing any formal notification.
Yep.
So it's something that people are only finding out and this is primarily private foundations. Obviously, if you're a federal agency, the likeliness that you're going to cancel a multi-$100 million grant program and not say anything about it is pretty low.
USAID, though, I will say there's USAID. So
yeah, that's true.
That did happen.
It did happen.
I've had a couple of them that I know that we were supposed to be getting funding from that just silently went into the night. Let's just say that.
I like Jacob's perspective, though. He's like really optimistic about it, though, which is good. So like, there's not going to be any more. We'll say that.
Yeah, there's no more. But seriously, like that is kind of captures the general point of making sure that you are not going kind of all in on one program. I think generally your grant strategy should be getting an idea of what are your options, putting together and preparing to apply. There's a lot of overlap between grants of kind of what you would need in order to increase your chances, and including putting a little sparkle on it, emphasizing economic impact, and just generally trying to think about, from the funder's perspective, they're charged with how do you go? They're basically charged with funding the furthering of a cause, right? Or trying to get something done, and they distribute the money to try and go and get something done, right? So from a funder's perspective, the way that they're usually thinking about that is not just the kind of amount of impact that you could make, but the likelihood that you'll be able to actually carry that out, right? So you can say, I'm going to go and change the world all day, but if you're not providing really solid and rigorous evidence that you actually have the operational capabilities to do so and backing that statement, your odds of getting any money are going to be very low. And something to make sure that you're aware of too is it's not getting the money and then, I have money, I'm free and clear to do whatever I want with it. When you get a grant, there are reporting and compliance requirements that hold you accountable to the claims that you're making in your application. So you need to make sure that you're telling the right story, but you also need to make sure that you can make it happen. And so keep that in mind, prep everything that you need, and kind of figure out what your core pillar is going to be in terms of the story around who you are, the program, and kind of initiative that you're going to go out and enact, and then adjust that to the different programs you want to pursue. We've seen people put all their eggs in one basket and find out that basket doesn't exist anymore. And then, they're kind of stuck with nothing. But if you come up with a foundation and then adjust it accordingly, it's a much better path forward.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I think we kind of highlighted the next question that I had. So I'm going to actually go down and look at another area. So we talked about the current landscape and how a lot of those things are being affected. So now let's talk about, how do you even really apply for grants, right? So I never like to lead with the negative, but I think it's really good in this case. So, what are the biggest mistakes that people are making when applying for grants from you guys? And I'll go first with Mollie for this one.
Oh, I get to go first. Okay. I was going to say Jacob, but no, I would say writing generally for something that's very specific. So people try to do too much all at once. I think it's better to apply for one grant really, really well than trying to apply for 5 grants and just kind of do it. I think using AI to write your grants is great. But I also think you're going to need a human in the loop, right? So I would use AI for writing your grant the same as I would anything. It's a great starting place. It gives you a place to start editing and working with content. But just know that you're absolutely going to need to be very specific and start to tailor, because there's a lot of SME type, subject matter expert type questions and things you're answering that are specific to you. And I will also say that a lot of founders dump content into ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you're using that I would not do. It's open source, it's learning. And if you're putting proprietary stuff in there, it's going to know and it's going to search. Now that's good on one hand, because my marketing brain, like, hey, SEO is dead and now people are using AI to search. So you want to be searchable, but don't put all your proprietary grant info in there. I don't recommend that. So use it as a starting place and a launch pad and then go from there. I think one other mistake that I see founders make is they do not put enough emphasis, and maybe Jacob, you understand this, on budgets. The budgets are where I see people, first of all, they're a pain in the butt. If I can say that on live stream. And they take forever, and people just kind of gloss over those, but that's actually where most people get hung up, because if you're not really, really clear and prescriptive about the budget and everything that you're line iteming out, that's where you get hung up and flagged. So those would be the things I would shout out.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in, because 1,000,000% budgets. When I talk about kind of telling that story and then making sure you're supporting it, you can say all that you want in a narrative, but if your budget doesn't back that up, and it's a sophisticated, well-prepared budget that reflects how someone would actually go out and spend the money to accomplish what they're promising, then your application is going to be laughed at. So that's absolutely something to really pay attention to. I would say on the topic of writing with AI, yes, absolutely. I could dump info into a secure LLM and have it write a grant application, but that grant application would not win. Right. Grants are an area that require not only often a very high degree of technical writing, but also you are trying to include as much substance as possible in very few words. Mm-hmm. Though an application seems very lengthy, you're trying to tell them about everything about who you are and what you are capable of doing and what you want to go do. This is something that, I would highly recommend writing yourself. If you want to have a LLM kind of start for you and do maybe the first 30%, and you do the next 60 of really, really curating your message. That is kind of my recommendation around using AI. Around just general advice for applying to grants. I've spoken with hundreds of, tenured professional grant consultants and writers. And the ones who have the highest success rates, the tips that they say are they win in their search, not in the writing. And this means that they are applying to grants that they have a very solid match for. Yeah. Rather than writing a really good application for something that's a Hail Mary. And Grantx can help with that. But
that's well said.
It's very true.
Because the author could be looking for someone specific, right? And they already have that person in mind when they write it. So you're not going to be able to know that until you start to do that search and understand okay, what does this look like? You never had a shot to begin with, essentially.
Exactly. And the other thing is, man, oh my God, it's so hard not to call out features of our platform because it addresses so much of this, but I do want to keep this on topic. But the other thing is following the instructions.
Yeah.
The most kind of successful professional grant writer that I've ever spoken with, when I asked her what is her tip, what is her magic touch, she says, I just follow the instructions. Yeah. Oftentimes there are pretty intense requirements around, what is your margin and font size supposed to be, not to mention word count. And if you're a funder reviewing thousands and thousands of applications, you need a quick filter to disqualify. Yeah. And oftentimes they use those formatting and other kind of detailed instructions to do so. So make sure that you are paying very close attention to how they want your application to look and what they're asking for, make sure that you are catering your argument towards the funder themselves. It is very easy to think about your application as just talking about, what am I trying to do? I'm a founder. I've written grant applications for Grantx. That's actually, we bootstrapped for a long time using grants that we won on our own platform. That, you know, it was super easy to just talk about Grantx, right? Which clearly I like doing in the applications, but that is, you know, you have to cater it towards the audience. You have to make sure they're not excited about what you're doing. They're excited about what they're trying to get done and how you're going to help them do that. And so make sure that you're taking that into account.
Can I add one more quick thing? Because I've seen this happen. Submit your grant early. Don't wait until the deadline or the day of, because I'm going to tell you what, the government websites will go down, and that's on you. They will not extend the deadline. They will not give you grace. Once that application closes, it closes. And I've seen that happen more often than not. And it's terrifying. So make the grant deadline like a week before it really is, so that you have time to submit it. And I see people just waiting till the last minute, and then it all goes wrong.
And I'm also going to add something on too.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Make sure you're reaching out to the program director or whatever contact you can find related to the grant prior to submitting your application. Even if it's not something that they include as like a formal step, reaching out and saying, hey, here is a quick blurb on what I'm applying to this grant with. Does this seem like a good fit? I want to help however I can. I want to, you know, work and be a part of this program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Find alignment, develop that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll add something in there as well, just as a helpful tip, since we're talking about those. Like, and this kind of goes with any applications for any businesses, just period. Like, you know, have a file saved for a lot of these responses that you're giving, because you might be able to like reuse or tailor that stuff for, you know, future applications, or even if you're going after that same grant next year, whatever it is. Okay, I can compare what we currently have with, you know, what we're, you know, submitting, and then trying to make the proper tweaks to, you know, ensure that you do get, you know, that second pass through, you know, potentially, right? Like, and that's just for any application ever. I mean, we have mountains upon mountains of information that we have saved for literally every application that we've ever done. And it's helped gradually as we've moved through, because it's also a great reference point for us. Like with grants, as well as with like applications to accelerators, you know, applications to, you know, funding competitions, you know, open contracts, like contract materials we've sent out. A lot of that stuff is always really good to just have on hand. And then it's better to tailor something that you already have than to trying to basically recreate something fresh for every single application as well. And just having a reference point, really. So hopefully that was also good information. The grant people will tell me if I'm wrong.
No, it's good. It's good. And it's historical past performance. You know, if you've written grants, you know, before you have that experience, then that actually helps you win future grants. So,
yeah, exactly. And I know we kind of went over some of this with the previous question, but if there's any additional things we might want to add for like what makes a really strong application versus a weak one. I know we already talked about, you know, some of the things like, you know, reading the information, actually applying that to the grant, like stuff like that. But I don't know if you guys had any additional information for going deeper on that, or if we kind of already hit all the topics there.
I think one thing I would add is having a good partner. So in letters of intent. So what's your commercialization strategy? I think if you can have those and have those really strong, because the government doesn't want to just fund something that's just for the government. They want to know that it's something they're funding that's also going to have commercial applications. And so if you can have a really strong commercialization strategy alongside maybe some traction, and even if that's an LOI from someone who might use it, or whatever that looks like, adding those as a part of the application really helps. And I would also say if you are not 100%, like you're maybe 50% of the way there, find a partner, find a prime or find a sub to work with. And I will say this too, again, going back to my marketing roots and kind of what we do at Spring and Forage is, okay, you're going through this process of grants. Maybe you won't win this grant, but asking somebody that you want to do business with anyway, to partner with you on something, opens that door to have that business conversation. So then maybe you guys can just go do revenue and make revenue together, right? Like that, like it doesn't have to just stop at the grant. So use it as a lead gen tool, reaching out to people like, hey, I found this great grant. I think we could do it together. And maybe that opens the door. And now you might have to take on some of the legwork of writing it and organizing and those things. But I mean, it might help you kind of reach outside of your comfort zone to find those partners. So
yeah, anything that you can do to just make your proposal seem less speculative.
Yeah,
like having a partner that is a little bit more established than you, right? That huge help. I would also recommend for startups, if you're applying to a grant, tap an advisor, tap a mentor, reach out to your local SBA office and see if there's someone that you can talk to that has more experience in just kind of like sophisticated operations at like a corporate level or even a government level, and are familiar with just, compliance in general. Founders are not traditionally the most kind of inside the box folks. And it's really important to make sure that you can kind of have that level of review.
Right.
It will help you put together an application that's a little bit more prepared, I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's a plug for Spring and Forge. Thanks, Jacob. You're plugging everybody today. I appreciate it.
No, 100%. I mean, that's like really great insights from both of you guys on that one. And I know that we've only got a couple of minutes left before we jump into the Q&A. We might mix some things in there. So we didn't initially plan to do this, but I want to be able to get some of these questions answered. Are you guys cool with us doing maybe like a rapid fire for like 5 minutes of just like super quick, snappy answers on a couple of things? All right, let's do it.
I'll do my best. Wait, quick, let me get ChatGPT. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, on the side. But all right, so around like language, branding, storytelling, does that matter in a grant proposal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then really quick, is there any information that we can provide for the yes on like how to do that?
Imagine you are pitching to an investor that is not taking big risks. So you need to tell a story about who you are, how it ties to the cause that you're looking to address with this funding, what you are doing that is going to further the impact of that cause, and why you should be trusted with that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Think about your brand and the mission. Government cares about mission and amplifying that mission.
All right, and I think this question is going to tie to both of you guys, but I think specifically one other person. But finding the right fit, what should businesses and nonprofits do for identifying the right grants to go after, the right tools and resources for tracking them, and then also, how do you find grants that are, how do you avoid grants that are not worth pursuing?
I honestly just use Grantx. We've spent the last 2 years to automate and solve this exact problem. And we're win-based, meaning that you can come on board, use the platform, and you don't have to pay for it until you actually get success out of it. We're not taking from the grant. That is key. But we guarantee ROI for businesses using our platform. So seriously, like hop on. All you have to add is your organization name and your URL. We gather the rest of the information that we need publicly. If there's a gap, we ask that you provide that yourself with uploading a document. And then we do all of that for you. We pre-qualify these grants. We make sure it's a fit with the funder. We make sure that it's a fit from an eligibility and compliance perspective. And we give you kind of your best chances to win. So seriously, like from an objective standpoint, I would highly recommend using the platform.
Perfect. And then Mollie, anything you want to add really quick for that?
I can't add to that. I mean, I feel like that was like a softball right there, so I can't add anything.
It wasn't meant to be, I promise, guys. But
and we have like a free trial too, if you prefer to use a subscription but want to try it out. But like seriously, like I'm trying to make this accessible and like democratize access to grant funding. So like, please. And if there's something that you don't like, hit me up on LinkedIn or fill out a contact form. I'm happy to hop on the call.
Perfect. And then also for everybody too, the reason why we're doing rapid fire right now is because we want to get to your questions for some of these. We have one of them queued up, but want to make sure. So if you guys have any additional questions, definitely throw them in the chat just so we can see those. And then Brandy, just in case I'm not seeing them all too, just make sure you have them prepared if there's any on LinkedIn from your end, because I've been monitoring the YouTube channel more. And so let's go with this portion of it. So specifically for you, Mollie, what do people often underestimate when it comes to like managing the grants after they're awarded, and then some best practices for, like reporting, compliance, and building trust?
Oh, well, is this still quick fire? Because that's a big question.
I feel like we could take a little bit more time for this one. After I said it out loud, I was like, this is going to be so much longer. So,
oh man, that's a big question. I mean, I can answer it fairly succinctly. You should have a dedicated person on your team to help you manage that stuff, especially if it's enough dollars that you are like matters for your company, like to make it. Because very often I see grant funding as like that bridge to be able to actually get to revenue or to get to whatever that next phase of funding is for VCs. And so if you can leverage it that way, you need a dedicated person managing it afterwards and being able to help with compliance. And I will say this, if you are in the software space or you're looking to do anything with FedRAMP, start earlier than you think. It takes about 12 to 18 months conservatively to be able to get through the FedRAMP process, which is really important. So make sure you understand what the security and compliance and requirements are before you even apply for grants, because often that's going to be, to Jacob's point, an eligibility killer.
perfect. That was an amazing response for that.
That was an awesome answer.
Okay, thanks.
I was like, you know what? Like, no notes.
Okay,
So let's go ahead and jump into Q&A. I'm going to bring Brandy back in here for this. Brandy, give me a thumbs up on your end before I bring you back in for the camera, because I can see you. You just can't see me. If you, I'll let her turn her camera back on and all the other things, and then give me a thumbs up and you're good. All right, sweet. All right, so now we're going to head into the Q&A portion here. I favorited one of these, but Brandy, I'll let you take this if you want, or I can do it. It's up to you for this. But let's show a first question here for everybody. All right, so I guess I'm saying it. So what are you seeing in AI use for grant writing? How has this changed the space? And what are the merits and drawbacks, as well as best practices that would be implemented to stay relevant with using artificial intelligence, it sounds like.
I think we might have touched on this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but using it like the 30%, like Jacob said, to kind of get you most of the way. I will say there are some really interesting platforms out there that are doing the auto writing, like AutoGen AI and a couple others that are doing the proposals themselves, but you're always going to still need a person. And I love, the call out of finding the person who's actually writing the grant. And even if you don't connect with them personally, understand how they think. What are they posting on LinkedIn? How do they talk? What does that look like? Because if they're super technical, you can write that grant that way. But if they're not, then don't write a super technical document for somebody who is going to have no desire to read that.
Yeah, I would also add, from a technical perspective, this is something that we have thought a lot about. In a previous launch, we actually built a grant writing tool, which we were able to receive some IP on because it was pretty advanced for kind of market comps. But what we're seeing across the industry around kind of solutions for applying to grants is, I'll just put it this way. So in order to have a writing tool actually be pretty effective at a specific task, it requires a massive volume of training data. Mm-hmm. There is no single corpus of successful proposals. And so in order to actually train a LLM or an AI writing tool to effectively write grants, there is kind of a lack of the data volume required. So you're basically going to be stuck with something that is going to be maybe a little bit a standard deviation above just your typical ChatGPT wrapper. And so it's something I'd be very wary of, because oftentimes people end up getting kind of tricked in by a fancy UX UI. And UX UI can be really useful for editing and revision. And so that's something where there may be a lot of value. But if you are hoping, like many people do, and it's a very intuitive thing, it makes a lot of sense, that you can just use AI to write your grant application, that's not going to be available for a while. And by a while, I would say somewhere 2026.
Yeah, I agree. Well said.
Okay, perfect. And one of the other ones that I can't put up on the screen here, but I will just share in general is, how should small teams or solo founders approach the grant process if they don't have a grant writer?
So one more time, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah. So essentially, how should small teams essentially approach the grant process if they don't have a grant writer?
I mean, I would say it's exactly the same as how do you approach marketing without a marketer? How do you approach sales without a salesperson, right? It's no different than like any other function. You just learn it if you're bootstrapping and you just kind of figure it out, right? Or you talk to people in your network who have done it. I'm available. I'm happy to chat for the folks that are part of Gabe and Brandy's community. Reach out, happy to help, coach. But you really just have to do it. I don't know how else to answer that question.
No,
Gabe, I feel like you brought this call on to mess with me and just see how many times I would shamelessly plug
I promise I didn't do that, but I did have some people submit questions beforehand. This is why I think I chose the panelists well because of this. So because it's almost like the questions directly apply to your space and what you both are working on. It's great.
But no, I would absolutely agree with Mollie's answer. Like for our grants that we were awarded, I was hands-on with the applications. I did use our tools, but the tools can't do it by themselves. And I know that's the hope that many founders have, is that this is something like that they can just kind of offload to AI. Unfortunately, no, there is going to be a degree of lift. Something that Grantx does offer is we have a services arm where we do grant writing. So we will write proposals for you. Again, this is something that there should be a level of review on your end. No one can talk about who you are and what your company's mission is and what you want to do better than you. But using an AI tool can help you save time. Our services arm is meant to significantly reduce the amount of time it will take to get a proposal out for something that's affordable to even founders.
Yep.
So essentially you've got both of your options on this call? It's crazy, like how we planned that out. Yeah. So might even work in tandem with both of them for different grants. Oh man, it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah, these tales from the Pantheon webinars are extremely value added.
But what is it called? So next one. So this isn't necessarily formulated as a question here, but I was actually on this previous call, so I can kind of give some information potentially for context. But so last call we were on, shout out to the folks at Fusion 42, was around fundraising for startups. And so one of the things that was talked about was, basically how many grant applications that it would take to actually, secure funding, as well as the formality with how money kind of flows with existing relationships. And so this is the follow-up portion to that, which is there any data available when applying on like what % goes to new applicants versus previous applicants and stuff like that? When you're like applying.
I get really passionate about this. So you go first, Jacob, because I can get on a soapbox about it for a while.
Yeah, no, go nuts.
Okay.
I will say this is an area that we are trying to create something like a CB Insights, so that we can actually kind of actively track all of this data and have it live and available. That is not something that will be launched on the platform for a few months. But Mollie, I want to let you.
I mean, I'll try and rein it in, but I get kind of passionate about it because it is very much old guard to the earlier piece there, and that's where what I talked about earlier with contracts. So you think about grants. Okay, the grants not so much. I don't think, actually, to be honest, grants are really meant for R&D, new things. But when you think about the contracts, it's all about who you know and what they know. And so when I said go after partners, that's really how you break your way into some of those older spaces. And so it's also one of the things that we've really focused on our side. We have over 300, we call them door openers, for lack of a better word, but they're retired general officers and government officials who've read these grants, who have had them on their desks, who are like, hey, I know exactly what they're looking for. And I can't tell you how many times because we only have like the people that we like to work with. We have a rule, right? We don't work with jerks. And so it's like, how do we break into these spaces and have these brand new, awesome, amazing founders and startups who are excited and they need this funding, but then it goes to Raytheon or it goes to Northrop Grumman. You're like, well, you don't really need that. Why did you win that? Or, and this is going to be the other piece of it, how many times have you seen something on Amazon that's like a bestseller and then all of a sudden Amazon's selling it? Same thing happens in the defense industry, people, right? They see your amazing startup, and then all of a sudden now Raytheon has that exact thing, right? Not throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying in general, right? That's how innovation works. And so when you're thinking about who you're partnering with, pick your partner carefully, but also know that more often than not, it's a broken system, and you have to go that route to be able to break into those circles.
And totally agree. I want to add on to this because this is something that's actually absolutely a reality in the grant space, less so than contracting. But I mean, think about it this way, right? If you need to make sure that your lawn gets mowed, right? You're looking at all of the different lawn care services. You find somebody, they do a good job, and you pay them, and it's good, right? The next time you need your lawn mowed, you're going to go with the person that did it effectively, used the money properly, got the job done last time, right? It's going to be a lot harder as a lawn care service to disrupt that pre-existing relationship. And so you need to kind of understand, I kind of speak to people about it this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to understand the flaws in the system, but if you are not actively going out and taking the proper action strategy and long-term, kind of roadmap to trying to fix that system, regardless of what system it may be,
Right.
you are kind of stuck in the position of having to either play the game or be left out. And so I highly recommend, again, like I said, contacting a grant program director prior to applying. If you are at an event and there are people associated with a foundation or agency that you want to get funding from, go introduce yourself, see if they'll schedule a call, try and have coffee. Relationships are real, and it's going to be very difficult to get funding from a foundation that's been giving that funding to the same larger organization for the last 20 years. You can either try and disrupt that, or you can try and uncover other areas of opportunity where that relationship doesn't exist.
Well, and a lot of these bigs too have scouting arms. So as a part of the new administration, one of the really positive things that have come out of it is there's now a mandate to have fresh people on these government contracts, right? We need to see new companies. We don't want to see the old people winning. Like there's actually like a lot of rigor that's around that. And so these companies have scouting arms to R&D, to innovation and tech arms. There was a different, depending on the organization, so don't go look for them because they all have different titles, nothing structured, but they have these set-asides to go look for startups to bring into the fold and onto these contracts so they can keep winning. So again, there is that money out there. You just have to know where to look for it.
No, perfect. That was honestly really great responses. I don't know if you guys are okay with going like 3 or
Sure.
4 minutes over. Okay, perfect. Because I do want to wrap it up with this final question, and then we'll go into amazing closing thoughts, and we have some links to share and some other announcements on our end. But with the final reflection, so what's one thing you wish that every business leader knew about grants that they often don't? And whichever one of you guys wants to go first on this one.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one. I would say the time that it typically takes to write an application and prep the documentation required. I'm kind of bucketing those two together, but oftentimes people think about applying to a grant as just writing the application and thinking like, I can answer these questions as they come up. I know my business. Let me just go in and do that. There is a significant amount of prep required. Again, you want to provide as much evidence and support for the argument that you're making in your application or proposal as possible, right? This is similar to like filing your taxes, right? You want to make sure you're including everything. And that means that you really have to dive deep and make sure that you can find everything in terms of like supporting documents and materials, but also making sure that those T's are crossed and those I's are dotted. Because a lot of the time there's an initial step of actually creating all of those documents. So that's key. Have a realistic understanding of timelines. It's generally recommended that for a grant application, you budget yourself 6 to 8 weeks, especially if you're a founder and you have like a million other things going on. So if you find out about a grant and its deadline is in 2 weeks, you should be very realistic about whether or not you're going to be able to submit a potentially successful application in that amount of time.
Yes, well said. I would say grants aren't magic, but they are momentum. So I think that they open doors. They help you figure your strategy out, but the process of writing that grant helps you figure out your story sometimes if you're just starting. And I would say, it also helps with your product development and helps you find traction. So grants aren't magic. It's not money. Now you're a unicorn. I think that's like the term, right? Everyone's like, I'm a unicorn. No, grants don't turn you into a unicorn, but they can get you some momentum. So,
and also something to kind of add on to this too is, you have to use the money for what you said the money was going to be for.
Right.
This is like really key. I've spoken with a lot of
startup
founders. Yeah, I've spoken with a lot of startup founders who may be doing something in the healthcare space, right? But then they wanted to use the funding for marketing activities. And there are some programs that allow that, but more often than not, they want to focus on like the tech you're building, the impact you're making in this specific niche of the healthcare space. They don't want to see you putting that money towards, team t-shirts. And so be very aware of that. If you are getting free money, it's not free. You are required to use it how you said you would use it. And it will need to align with that funder's preferences.
It's almost like misusing capital for business purposes that are not what you initially specified is kind of a bad thing. I don't know. Like so sounds like ethics really plays an important part in the grant process. But that was me being sarcastic. But yes, like definitely make sure that you're like being as granular as possible and putting in the appropriate details into your grants applications. Pretty much anything you're applying for ever, like. Be as transparent and like actually put the appropriate information in there. We all know that we love really lavish trips to expensive countries, but that's not what grant money is for.
And it can be really valuable to jump through those hoops as long as they don't take you too far off of your kind of trajectory. Exactly. So just something to consider.
No, 100%. And so I'm going to jump into some of the fun little sharing portions, and then we'll close everything out. But I wanted to give some quick updates for the Founding Titans end for everyone. So the next session that we're actually going to be having for this is with my really good friend, Mayron. He is a partner with 7BC Venture Capital. So we're going to be doing this same time, potentially same place, depending on where you're looking at this stream from. So we're going to be streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube next week. You can find the information for the event here. But essentially, this is where we're going to be running everything from our YouTube channel as well as from our company LinkedIn page. In regard to Founding Titans itself, we've also got a specific calendar for us on Luma. So you can find it on our website at foundingtitans.com. It's under the blog section right now. I need to rename it, but we have our events calendar there. If you've already put your name in for this event, we'll be inviting you to the next one and subsequent ones. If you don't want to go into every panel or whatever it is, just email me at gabriel@foundingtitans.com or, our connect@foundingtitans.com. That's where all of our invitations and AI and all the fun stuff is coming out of from that email address. So just shoot any inquiries there. If you do not want to be included on anything, just let us know. We're not going to try to spam you at all. So final thing, thank you to Kurt Walker and the team at Fusion 42 for sending some of their audience over for this panel that we had today. So they are running their Global Super Accelerator that's going to be coming soon. They also do sessions every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, usually when they run their events. They have Pitch Kung Fu this Thursday as well for founders to jump in and practice their 2-minute pitches in front of investors and industry experts. So if you're looking for feedback, community support, whatever it is, definitely jump over and chat with the Fusion team over there. And then, of course, we have our amazing folks at Spring and Forge. So we are actually using them ourselves for our grant writing right now because we need it. I'm not going to lie. Like I am not a grants guy. I'm a business guy. So, if you really need help or support, they are an amazing option. And also not just on the grant side, they do a couple of other things. I don't know if Mollie, if you wanted to share quickly some of the other details or just kind of rehash that really quick.
I appreciate it. I mean, your word is better than anything I could say. So I appreciate that very much. Grant writing, the go-to-market piece, right? So product market fit, all the marketing pieces. And then really the big thing that we do that's very different from other places is expanding into the larger, like the bigs and the primes. We have all of our retired general officers who can help you if you don't understand how to sell into the military or the government. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then we have our favorite person here, Jacob with Grantx. And so if you want to give a final quick little shout out for the recent product launch and what people can expect and how they can connect with you on that side of the process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Jacob Schoenberg. The link is, I believe, somewhere.
Yep, on the screen.
Awesome. And yeah, we're really about trying to kind of make the world of grants more accessible and transparent. We've spent a lot of time, and had a lot of people working tirelessly to build the technology required in order to answer that question. Like I said, what's out there for me and what should I apply to? And we have set up our platform so that it is easily accessible. You can go on and without having to spend any money, experience the value of the tool. And that's really what I want to share. So please hop on grantx.com, and hopefully it's something that can make this a lot easier for you.
Yeah. And depending on when you are looking at this, so Founding Titans is currently doing pre-orders for our platform. We are basically building an AI recommendation algorithm that helps our users with finding the right people, businesses, communities, events, deals, and resources. So whether you are a community, an organization, or just an entrepreneur, or somebody that's looking to either get more engagement or looking to build out their network or even maintain their network, we're building out software specifically for you guys and really just trying to help professionals with this crazy process we call networking. And so really want to, make sure that we, highlight some of this stuff. We're obviously doing a lot of different events. We have an event in September as well for founders and investors in Austin, Texas to kick off fundraising season. For those of you guys that don't know, fundraising season is Labor Day through Thanksgiving, essentially, for the next batch that's coming at the end of the year. So we want to make sure that, everybody's able to get the funding that they need, whether it be grants, whether it be, funding from investors, and really just getting that support. But we also aren't just here for the entrepreneurs. So we're here for the ecosystem builders, the super connectors, whether all of us are working in some capacity in business. And we really want to make sure that, everybody's able to have the right access that they need to succeed. Current pre-orders right now. So if you're looking at this in the future and you're like, oh, that price isn't there anymore, that's because you waited too late. So we're doing $10 for the entire first year once the platform launches in Q4, and you get early access to it for our open beta. Normally the prices are $29.99 or $49.99 per month, or even more than that for the enterprise plans. And so if you're looking for the enterprise side, we can help you out there. If you're looking for to get into the system, we also have a free plan as well. So we have a freemium model. But if you want any of the AI tools or system integrations, that's going to cost money, but not a lot of money right now. So for the first 1,000 people, we're offering those steep discounts that are pre-ordering the system for paid subscriptions. So our current user base is also at about 14,000. Just FYI, pre-launch.
That's a ton. Well done.
Yeah. Won't be long, guys, in that. So wanted to make sure we do our shameless plug. And now for the ending portion of it, where I want to thank both of our amazing and esteemed panelists for coming on to the session today and really providing a lot of, context, knowledge share. And, I know I kind of just randomly cold messaged both you guys to see if you wanted to jump onto this. So I really appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to, be on this session with Brandy and I as we're continuing to move forward with, what we're building. And so I didn't know if you guys had any last things that you guys wanted to say, but wanted to make sure I said my quick thank yous.
No, just thank you. Thank you for the honor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, same.
I don't know if Brandy has anything that she wanted to add before we left. And if not, then we'll close everything up.
No, yeah. I mean, I only echo it, right? Like everything in the chat is nothing but praise and excitement. And I mean, I love that, right? Like this is not a topic that is always flushed out on our end. And I feel like the economy, right? Like it's always changing. And, I hope that this is really beneficial. If y'all have follow-up questions for them, feel free to reach out to Gabe and I, very similar to, I believe Gabe put his email here. Very similar. Mine's just Brandy at Founding Titans. And then, yeah, if y'all need anything, we are here. Otherwise, we look forward to, of course, yeah. We look forward to seeing y'all on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, and let them know that that we sent you guys over for everything. Make sure you send your friends or really anybody that needs this session. Send the link over. The recording will be saved right after this finishes, as well as making sure that the appropriate people will reach out to Mollie and Jacob and both of their companies respectively. For the services that they might need. We're not here just to promote the software, the services, or trying to get you guys to buy anything, but the really big thing about this is just like, I mean, if you see anything that's useful, like closed mouth doesn't get fed, make sure you guys are actually like taking advantage of the things that we're showing here or the people that we're presenting for you guys. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? Like, make sure that you're actually, utilizing these resources that we're providing. Because we have a lot more too. We have over 50 sessions that we're gonna be doing the rest of this year, legitimately. So we're just boom, 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 hitting stuff from investors, like esteemed panelists from different sectors or different areas. If there's anything specific you guys want to see too, definitely reach out and share that with us. I know we've got like a panel on family offices we're doing next month. We've got investors that are coming on, but it isn't always just about startups. So if you're outside of the startup ecosystem and you have things that you want us to know about, let us know. And I know we went 11 minutes over, so I'm going to make sure I release these guys and end the stream. Thank you guys. You're great.